Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And I'm your host, Janet Care Lessin, with my co-hosts, Dr. Sasha Lessin. And today we're going to have an incredible show with billy-carson. And Billy is an avid blogger and social media manager, and he currently owns and manages over a dozen social media accounts with followers totaling over 1 million. Billy-carson is the founder of Forbidden Knowledge on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Topics discussed range from ancient suppressed knowledge to current day events. Billy-carson is also an expert host on the new original streaming series by Gaia named Deep Space. This series is an exploration of the secret space program and the types of technologies being used along with their potential origins. Billy-carson and Thomas Mickey Scrøder Jensen have combined forces with the top anomaly hunters in the world to form the United Family of Anomaly-hunters, also known as UFAH. Their mission is to provide enough evidence of past and present life on Earth, other celestial bodies inside our own solar system. The United Family of Anomaly Hunters is a nonprofit organization with active members around the world. Their sole purpose is to help bring disclosure to the world about past and current civilizations on planets and moons in our solar system. Their primary focus is on Mars, only because Mars has the most available raw data to work with. But the UFAH team scour the massive public domain images databases of various space agencies to bring the general public the highest quality anomalous discoveries in our entire solar system. Billy-carson is a well-known activist and truth seeker in the conscious community. And let's see what else. He is the CEO of First Class Space Agency based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And Billy-carson's space agency is involved in research and development of alternative propulsion systems and zero-point energy devices. So there's more about Billy-carson on our website, aquarianradio.com, and I'm going to get his websites and put them on his page later. Dr. Sasha Lessin, what would you like to say about Billy before we bring him on?
Every morning when I get up, I want to see what's hot in my various fields. I see what you posted, Billy. I find you're interested in the same stuff I'm interested in, and we both interview all these people and read all this stuff, and so it's like I talk to you every morning, but we've never really talked for years now. But I'm really glad to have you on the show and talk about what's new and hot.
Yeah, if you're on the mainland or on the East Coast, you're ahead of us in time. So when we get up, there's Billy. So welcome to the show, Billy, and I do hope to cover things about the Anunnaki and the secret space program. That's on my wish list for today's show. Welcome, Billy-carson.
Hello, hey, thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Good.
Great. Okay. We're excited to have you here today. I know you and Sasha have been Facebook friends for a long time. Where would you like to begin? This is a new audience for you, our listeners on Revolution Radio.
How did you get interested in all this stuff? That's a really good place to start.
Well, it really goes far back. Some people know part of the story, but it really goes back into my actual family line. Way back in antiquity, my mother's side of the family has some direct contact with Anunnaki, and there's actually a megalithic granite structure in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, where my mother grew up. Her side of the family is from Puerto Rico and St. Thomas, and the Stevens family bloodline, according to our family record, used to aid the Anunnaki in ancient times in construction and in colonization and a couple of other things. Now, my aunt, who is basically almost on her deathbed at this moment, who knew nothing about my forbidden knowledge, nothing about my groups on Facebook and my kind of small level of fame in this area, I basically openly stated that she had to tell me something before she leaves this planet and or this this Earth, and that is that her and my mom were playing at that structure in St. Thomas when they were little kids. My mom has since now passed away, unfortunately, and that they were taken up, abducted by aliens for several hours, and then brought back. And they have very, very vivid memories of it. But that's just the very, very, very beginning from at least this generation that I can recount. It goes back even further. But even then, up until my grandfather having a lot of secret information. My grandfather is one of the people that helped design the actual launch pad for the space shuttle for NASA. The very first space shuttle that went up, that launch pad was architected by my grandfather, Ronald Stevens, as well as some of the restoration of the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid was done by my grandfather as well. We have a long line of being involved in these types of things. When I was about 8 years old, I witnessed a UFO in the backyard of my house, and then as I got older, I had an experience in about 2008 with an actual face-to-face encounter at my house in Western Florida, which I came out with on my album that was released on my artist's album that was released earlier this year. So it's it's a track record that goes back way back, and obviously up to this current point. So, but what really started to be on my path was when I was 8 years old and saw that UFO in my backyard in Miami, Florida, and that really started to be on a heavy research path to find out what was going on. And when I talked to my mom, she tried to tell me in so many words that there's other people out there, not just us, and we look like them. And then she proceeded to tell me about the Nazca lines and several other ancient sites on this planet. And this is back in the early 70s. So, I've been involved in this for a long time.
So it's my hypothesis that you have first that you've been on the craft, whether you remember it or not, and that you have been selected as an ambassador. When I see the energy you put out in the world and the way you're manifesting, you know that you've been given a mission, and that you were selected partly because of your family, but also because of your intellect, which is startling. You can do more than one person can do. So that's my hypothesis. You're an ambassador, and you've probably been up-leveled.
And also, I wanted to encourage you to get these stories of your relatives before they pass. Like take a recorder or something, and your auntie that's about to pass, go get her story in her own voice would be great. And
yes, I actually
can.
I'm gonna get over to London and get her recorded, or I already talked to her son about getting her on at least a Skype conference that I can record and save.
That would be great. I think that's so critical. We have all these people from all these generations, and many of them are passing, and we need to document their stories because that's what there is a need to tell. So she's on her deathbed. It's that deathbed confession, but it'll set us all free if we start having not just hundreds of stories, but millions of stories about what actually happened in our true authentic history. Then that in itself is disclosure. Is your grandfather now passed, the one that worked on the space programs?
Yes, he's now passed away. Unfortunately, several years ago, he died from bone cancer in his late 80s. And he, thankfully, me and him had a lot of talks, and he passed on a lot of secret information to me. And I'm to pass down that information to, someone. And I have one son that I've deemed qualified, for this knowledge and this information. Even though they all get it, but this one son he's special enough to handle the details of pushing this information forward and keeping the secret, the family secrets. So, I'm looking forward to. I've already been working with him. He's really some kind of a prodigy already, at a very young age. So I'm looking forward to
How old
seeing
is
him
he?
develop. Right now, he's 16 years
How
old.
old is?
Yeah, he's 16 years
Oh,
old now,
perfect.
and he's just a phenomenal kid. You know, everything he sets out to do, he excels extremely well. State champion in boxing. He decides he wants to play high school basketball at the last minute. He makes the varsity team. Straight A student in all honors classes. Just a whiz kid and a very, very hard worker. And he's very, very conscious at an early age, which makes it really
Yeah.
worthwhile. He's extremely open, and he even sends me some of the posts that I put up on some of my pages. So he's really conscious. Yeah.
That's great. I know, and before I pass it over to Sasha and back to you, I wanted to know when you had that sighting in your backyard, or have you ever seen other species, other beings, extraterrestrial beings,
Yeah.
and if so,
One in my
what kind?
backyard, I couldn't see any beings. That was we lived by an airport, and it was an Opelika Airport, which at that time was open. Now it's a closed airport, and airplanes would pass over our house every 15 minutes like clockwork. We'd sit in the backyard and watch them pass over. And this one afternoon, I went out there to watch the airplanes, and this orb came across, but it crossed the horizon in about 5 seconds or less, and the word UFO didn't exist for me back then. So I had no idea what it could be. I just knew it could not be a plane. Then it came back and then it stopped and then it left out the way it came in. And I was like, what in the world did I just witness here? What did I see? And I remember the next day, I was in elementary school, Rainbow Park Elementary. I went to the library, the school library, and took out every encyclopedia. There was no Google back then. So I got all the Britannicas out
Right.
and started looking for technology. I started researching the STS supersonic plane and different types of fighters that we had, even submarines that were launched from the ocean. I couldn't find anything close to this thing that I saw, and that really got me on my path. Now, in 2008, what I saw was actual beings. I was in my house in Weston, Florida, and the house actually had people in it. My kids were upstairs in a split floor plan, and my wife at the time was in a master bedroom on the first floor. I was in a family room on the first floor watching TV, wide awake at like 9 p.m. I wasn't sleeping or dozed off or tired or anything. I was watching the sports updates, and all of a sudden the room turned into a purple haze. And I was like, what in the world is going on here? I thought one of the kids were playing a game. So I started looking around, and when I turned my head back forward, there were two gray aliens directly in front of my face, within inches of my face. And they were standing up, and I was
Wow.
sitting in a chair. So from my seated position, they were right at my eye level. That's how short they were. And then they began to, I don't know, I still can't really describe exactly what it is, but they began to do something. My brain started hurting. My head started shaking. I started trying to scream. I tried to scream, but I couldn't get the words out. There was nothing but dead air coming out of my throat. Um, and they didn't verbally say anything that I could understand or telepathically say anything I can understand. I just remember cringing and trying to stop the pain in my head shaking. And then as fast as they came in, they left. Um, and I was like just completely stumped and shocked, really scared. And actually, that's what led to my divorce. That was like the catalyst of the whole thing. That happened to me at the house.
How did
But
they? How did
yeah.
that lead to your divorce?
Mhm.
What tell us how that unfolded? How? Because we hear
Well,
this a lot that
yeah.
sometimes this contact leads to divorce. What happened that it led to your divorce?
Well, I was already heavily into research and writing and studying of all these ancient texts and searching through through old NASA images and look for ancient civilizations and stuff like that. That was already taking up a lot of my time between that and sports. But when this happened, I became, I guess if you want to call it, overly obsessed. And then the fact that I told her what happened, it really scared her into thinking that there's something demonic was going on or something else. No, these are just flesh and blood people, just like me and you. They just have an agenda, and I began to spend a lot of time, researching and digging and seeking out knowledge and information and traveling. And between the time away and the fact that this actually happened in the house, which they thought, she thought was a hallucination or something. It just scared him and her, and it just made her feel like, This is probably time to exit. So we kind of started growing
Wow.
apart, and it
Did
ended
it
up
do something?
culminating in divorce.
Did it do something to your intellect? Did they add something? Did they put something in you? Did you get a program from them? How were you affected, not just socially, but how did it affect your intellect, I guess?
I was really definitely affected. There's no doubt about it. I had never been involved in the physics or the quantum physics aspect of studying and researching and consciousness. And then right after this happened, it became an absolute obsession. I understood it, uh, I mean, almost instantly. And it's not that I can go get out a piece of chalk and go to a chalkboard and write out an Einstein equation. But what it means is when I see these equations and when I hear these hypotheses and these theories, I can plug them into spirituality, and I can combine the spiritual aspect to the physical, to the physics, and I can make an agreement between the two, and I have a very, very extremely good understanding of these concepts, to the point where I have a quantum physics group online, which is actually one of the larger ones available online, and I actually even help students with their homework on there from time to time. So that was like a download that I believe I definitely received, the ability to grasp this type of knowledge and understand it, and then correlate it to life and spirituality, kind of a unified physics. It's really that's been the most amazing side effect.
Wow, thank you.
So then once you got awakened to all this phenomena, how did you have several tracks, I guess, that you're on: the Anunnaki,
Mm-hmm.
the secret space program, the anomalies.
Right.
What came next? How did you take that energy and create something from it?
Well, I was already studying
Start
geology.
research.
Yeah, I was already studying some geology because I was just through looking into. I'm an amateur astronomer, so I started realizing through studies that the precession was speeding up, the precession of the equinoxes, and when you understand that the only thing that can cause a precession of the equinoxes to begin to speed up is that means that your star that you're orbiting is speeding up. So then,
Yes.
okay, I'm going, what is causing our star to speed up? There's got to be a reason why our star is speeding up. This isn't any history books or anything else like that. So then I started researching more, and I did find some references to some astronomers, some independent researchers as well, about a binary star system. So then I began researching the binary star system, and come to find out, it's most likely that we are living in a binary star system, meaning we have two stars. Our star, our yellow star, orbits another star, whether it's a brown dwarf or another yellow star. Now, I actually believe it's a brown dwarf star, which is a very dim star that you can only see on two-mass infrared mode if you're looking through any of the public access systems. But I began to realize that we're orbiting another star, and as we come closer together, we speed up to obtain breakaway speed. So we're on a course right now for an orbit with another star. Then that threw me into
Yeah,
finding out about
Nemesis.
Nibiru and the Anunnaki and everything else.
Yeah. Oh, what a path! Wow.
Yeah, so that's the path.
So this Nemesis is what Andy Lloyd calls the star
Right,
that Nibiru is primary. And
right.
actually, they say that Nibiru doesn't ever actually go around Solaris. It just passes between Jupiter and Mars.
It's very possible. Now that they've found so many bodies out there, the European Space Agency has now logged so many celestial bodies within our solar system. It's actually in the hundreds, believe it or
Wow.
not. So there's so many
Wow.
objects out there that it's scary. I mean, it really, we really have been showed everything. And this is a press release that came out by the European Space Agency 2 years ago on their website. I can even provide you guys with a link, and you can add it to the feed
Yeah.
later on. It's
Oh
an
yeah,
amazing
I'd like to.
discovery. Yeah, it's an absolute amazing discovery. So then you begin to go into the ancient texts and you go, man, these people who log this information, the Dogon with Sirius B, the Anunnaki with the Sumerian cylinder seal that shows the planets on the back of that seal, orbiting a star or our star. And then you begin to realize that the Egyptians are basically worshiping a red star above their, which they predominantly put above their heads on their head pieces, but that's not any star in our solar system. So you start to begin to realize there's a lot of stars out there, and there's a lot of activity going on, not necessarily, based on our inner solar system. And that took me into researching an ancient space program, and then researching obviously Zecharia Sitchin's work with the ancient spaceports in Mesopotamia, and then of course in Jerusalem, and finding out so much information about the different religions and how religious people, they really don't realize that they're actually worshiping aliens, because the definition of an alien is an entity not from this earth, and they've all claimed that they're not from here. And if you ask a religious person, they can say, "Oh yeah, my God or my deity, he says, he's not a human, he's not from here." Well, then you're worshiping an alien. And then as you look into the backstory on all these beings and entities and deities, they're always landing and taking off, and they're always telling the people that they're not from here. And then sometimes they take some of these people up with them, and some of those people they've brought back, like Enoch and a few others. So it's just an amazing thing. It was an amazing revelation to me to really be able to dig through the Bible and dig through some of the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, and some of these other ancient texts and Indian Vedas, and begin to put together a picture in my mind that says there was definitely an ancient space program. And then that led me into studying Atlantis and researching the whole Atlantis, and realizing that Atlantis was a global, and not only then global, then I realized it was actually a interplanetary civilization. So it just keeps going.
Right. Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
What are some of your groups? I was looking on your Facebook.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What's the groups that you have founded? What's some of your groups that you founded?
The people can join too.
Yeah, I'm going to put them on your page here.
Oh, great, thank you. Yeah, on Facebook, obviously it's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4 instead of the FOR.
Okay.
I just use the number 4, then Bidden Knowledge. And the reason why I use the number 4 is because I'm basically subconsciously trying to say that I'm actually coming in from the 4th dimension with this information. Kind of Metatron's cube style. So Forbidden Knowledge. And then I also have Mars Discoveries and Solar System Anomalies, which is a Facebook group. Mars Discoveries and Solar System Anomalies. That one has about 70,000 members. And in there we do all types of anomalies, predominantly Mars, but then also we can show anything from Earth or the Moon or Venus. I've found some amazing anomalies on Mercury and Venus that are in there. And we have a lot of great members in there that post great content. And then we also have, we got so many of them. Oh my goodness. Mars, Moon, Space. Mars, Moon, Space.
When you have time, send me the links and I'll put them on your webpage so I can.
Yeah, there's so many of them. Yeah, I'll send you the links to them. I'm actually part of 12 groups that I've founded or I'm an administrator on, and then I'm also a member of over 180. So that's just so many.
Oh, wow. Well, you're a very busy person.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get a little bit into our topics here. So what are the top topics that you want to talk about?
Oh, you're asking us as Billy, right?
I'm asking you and Billy. Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you, I'm really interested in Michael Lee Hill and other informants have told me that Marduk has said he's sorry for all the trouble he's caused by keep dividing us and having us fight one another, and that Galzu has intervened and said it's now time to have Enki as the top ethos of the age, Aquarius, and that it's time to unify. And so that you have all this thing about the Maitreya's coming again, that again, we're having another chance to do it better. And so I'd like to get Billy, I'd like to hear what you like to think about all that.
Yeah, that's really an amazing revelation, and I really hope it's true. I'm really praying that that's actually the case, because it's there. First of all, the level of consciousness is being raised on this planet at an extremely fast level, and I can see it because I remember from going from being a kid or a preteen and actually having private meetings with people to discuss this type of stuff, and then moving into as a teenager, passing around VHS tapes and then passing around cassette and CDs and then DVDs in the 2000s, and then websites and blogs, now social media. And I've just seen, the path, the growth, and I can hear people when I go to a restaurant talking about things that are a little bit more conscious than you would have, 8 or 10 years ago. So the consciousness is, so what's happening is human beings, or the 99%, are starting to wake up and grow up. There's still a lot of trauma and there's still a lot of bad things going on in this world. But the amount of people that outside of that are actually waking up and beginning to realize, wait a minute, this isn't the way we're meant to be. This isn't the way we're supposed to live, is growing exponentially. And soon it's going to reach a critical mass. And if Enki truly is going to be coming back and taking over again, which I believe is definitely going to happen, we are looking at an extremely fantastic time as we usher or move back into that golden age again. Now, one thing we do have to remember is that they operate in very long time scales in Anunnaki, as you well know. So some people have to realize that you just have to keep pressing and moving, because we're like the pioneers for this age to move, to bring back or usher back into the golden age again. And some of us aren't going to actually physically see it, on this planet unless we come back, because it could be a while or it could be quicker, but you just have to keep pushing and striving and continue to show love and try to wake people up and lift consciousness as much as you possibly can, because what happens on Earth affects the rest of the galaxy and even the universe. And they've been waiting on us to really grow up for a very long time. And with Enki coming back into position of power and Marduk, backing down, it's going to be a really, really phenomenal opportunity for humans on this planet to grow up, wake up, and regain their birthright, which is access to the stars, in my opinion.
Thank you so much.
So that brings us to the secret space program and the connection between the Anunnaki and the secret space program. And that's one of the things that's been, I've been obsessed with lately. And I've been interviewing a lot of people that are coming forth, and I'm reading the book by William Tompkins. Have you read his book, Selected by Extraterrestrials, or are you familiar with his YouTubes?
I haven't seen his, I haven't read his book yet. No, I've seen a couple of his videos, but I haven't read his book yet.
Right. So, and then I'm talking to John Titor. Of course, I've been talking to Andrew Bashago and Randy Kramer, and I haven't been able to have a conversation with Corey Good. And I know there's a couple other.
Michael Sala.
I talked to Michael Sala. So, what are your thoughts on the secret space program?
Well, the secret space program is absolutely real. It's 1,000% real. There's, as Corey Good described, there are 5 factions. There's actually a couple more than that, but there definitely are 5 factions within the secret space program. And this is something that goes back so far, the average person on this planet wouldn't believe it. But we're talking 1920s. That they've been developing some of these technologies in this Black Ops program, this dark program. When President Kennedy was making his famous speech about going to the moon and doing the other things, we were already on Mars. And when you tell somebody that, they can't even conceive it. They can't even believe it, and mostly because the TV and the media has done a fantastic job in literally programming. That's why they call it TV programming the general public, and getting them to believe the cover story, which is that all we can do is put a whole bunch of fuel into a giant steel tube and light it on fire and to get it into space. I mean,
Right.
And it doesn't take a genius to say, okay, let me go back and look at my car. Like my first car was 1978 Buick Skylark. And, now my current car, I look at my current car and I look at that car and I go, wow, what an incredible improvement. Even though we're still using combustion engines, which we don't have to. But look at the improvement in the technology. The technology in my current car has more technology than the rocket that took Apollo 11 to the moon.
Right.
And so I could see that advancement, and I could see computers. My first computer was 2 GB hard drive Packard Bell. I used to call it a Packard from hell. It would crash, the dial-up AOL and all this other stuff, and it could barely could pull up a web page. And now I've got a 1 TB, 12 gig of RAM laptop that I can walk around with. And this is incredible transformation of technology. But then when you go back to NASA, the only thing they can muster up is to make explosions to get into space. People have to realize that it's a front story, it's a cover story, first of all. They really have to swallow their pride and say, look, I've been had, they got me. Okay, there's a cover up here, and this is not the only way to travel by blowing up stuff. It's just not the right, it didn't make any sense. So
let's get into that, some of that, like the reasons behind that, because that's what Tompkins was, they were, what are you finding? So why did they do that?
Tompkins, he's on Gaia as well. Yeah, Tompkins is very, very, very good. He's a very great source of content. He's on Gaia as well, and his information is spot on. They found out about the entities or the beings, I call them terrestrial aliens, living underneath the Earth. Not so much as that the Earth is completely hollow, but that there's humongous caverns down there that are like, the size of small states. And I know this for a fact because just recently I got back from Cacahuamilpa in Mexico, and I went 2 miles down, and I could have kept going, but we ran out of oxygen into this underground cavern. Yeah, it was amazing. And when we got down about a mile, about 90 meters above the surface, we saw a Egyptian head carved into the rock, about 90 meters up off the ground inside this cavern, which was super, super, super. It's the largest one in North America. Amazing place. You can only go so far and so deep because you begin to get real hot, and then you run out of oxygen. You have to loop around and come back out. But so there's these super massive system underground, which Tompkins is right. They live there. Hitler found them and obtained some information from these beings as well. They look just like us, except they have bigger eyes. Most likely from being down there a lot and not having to get a lot of direct sunlight. There's also entities that they discovered on other planets. There's the United States and Russia, who are the absolute best of friends. The whole Cold War, that was nothing but a fundraiser on a front. Russia and America are the best of friends, have been and always will be the best of friends. They're the biggest joint space partners on this planet, and they've combined forces for decades on space travel and satellites. And they've seen this, remnants of ancient civilizations by using radar dishes, which are just basically gigantic dishes on Earth that actually bounce radar back off of Mercury and Venus and the Moon and create images. And they've known that these ancient civilizations or even current civilizations are there and have been there way, way back in the 30s and 40s. So the purpose of this cover-up is because once they tell everyone that there's other entities and beings out there, then they don't have the right to, number one, confront them, to fight them, to take over any resources that they may have. If it's ancient civilization, they can go there and they can literally squander the spoils that are left behind without telling anybody, which is one of the main reasons they've gone to Mars so much. Mars has been, a multi-trillion-dollar expenditure for worldwide for global governments to go to Mars, because why? Not just look and see if there's water. We're trying to find water. No, they've been going there and they've been collecting remnants of technology. The key is technology, because when you collect this type of technology, when you collect these other rare ores and all these other types of resources, then you have control and you have power. But if you tell everybody that they're there, that it's there, then you have to share it with everybody. They don't want to do that. Not to mention, he who controls space controls the world. If you don't control space around the planet,
What was the technology? What have you learned about what they found that they're fighting for, that they're keeping.
Well, they found that they did. They definitely found that there was, leftover remnants of after a global catastrophe on Mars. They found remnants of ancient civilization, which were the Igigi, who built civilization up on that planet. They mined and worked that planet. They came here to Earth, took women back with them, had birth. Who gave birth to children and put an entire civilization in place on Mars. So there's a lot of ancient technology now on Mars. You find that the technology that was on Mars versus what's on Earth is a little bit more advanced. Even though there were two civilizations running concurrently, one on Mars and one on Earth, the one on Mars was more technologically advanced than Earth. So there was more advanced technology available to be discovered on Mars than actually on planet Earth itself. Earth, for whatever reason, was put at a slower pace in technology and gaining technological advancement. And when we look on Mars, find things like that.
Probably because they were the Anunnaki were fearful of the the Earthlings. There were so many. The population was huge compared to the Anunnaki, and so they were trying to control it more. So the technology they had to control it. So Tompkins was saying that the Nazis were given advanced craft, like full-on 100-foot wide saucers and other craft of all different sizes, and that's why they were so far in advance of the Americans. And actually, Tompkins says that the Americans basically gave up and went into cooperation with them because when you're so overwhelmed technologically, it wasn't until the Americans had the Roswell crash, they finally got a craft to reverse engineer. So the Nazis were doing it all along. And so we actually lost World War II, according to Tompkins. And we are basically the Fourth Reich. We're a Nazi colony. And then
paperclip.
There was a paperclip, and then they surrendered. The German army surrendered. It was just like a public display for our benefit. The
SS moved down to Antarctica, to New Schwabenland.
But what I wondered, with all that being said, and so they went to two colonies down there in Antarctica. They said there was a large reptilian colony underneath, and so when Tompkins says that when Admiral Byrd went down there, Admiral Byrd didn't want Hitler and all of them escaping. He was pissed off, and some Americans were. I don't know. It's kind of conflicting. It's not quite jiving all the way, but they went down there, and then when it wasn't just the Nazis with their big round craft, but they sent out the reptilians sent out a large, super giant cigar-shaped craft, which apparently is the reptilian structure. So now on the internet, there's all this stuff, and I can't quite get the answer. What's going on in Antarctica? We had it's conflicting. Did Obama go early in 2016 down there? I'm trying to track that down. But Kerry definitely went while the election was going on. What was so important that he ran down to Antarctica? The leader of the Russian Orthodox Church went down there and did some kind of ceremonies and blessings. And Buzz Aldrin, do you have any, before you, this is my question, who's going to answer first? What's going on in Antarctica?
There's a couple things going on down there, actually. One is, and one of the researchers in my United Family of Anomaly Hunters group, Joe White, who was just recently featured on Ancient Aliens on 2 episodes, he was one of the first researchers to discover it outside of the military. Just 2 giant pyramids down there, okay? Now, these pyramids are massive, and based on the research, they appear to be, one of them appears to be still active. In other words, it's emitting some type of exotic energy, okay? Thomas Mickey Scrøder Jensen, who's my partner, my co-founder in that program, he scours the satellite images of Earth and discovered several above-ground bases there, and several bases there that appear to be not functioning anymore, and also several massive entrances into probably most likely a huge underground base. Now, when I went to talk to Major Ed Dames, who a lot of people probably know him, he's a very famous remote viewer, former CIA. Now he owns the Matrix Intelligence Agency. He's a good friend of mine. I met him in Orlando a couple times. The last time I was there was a few months ago, and I spent probably 14, 15 hours with him. He said that there is a base, an alien base above ground in Antarctica, still to this day, right now, and they don't hide it. All the governments of the world know that they're there, and they allow them to come and go as they well please. So there's probably some type of treaty or collusion or whatever the case may be, and these leaders are probably flocking down there to either maybe there's some type of a meeting going on. They've been invited to meet and greet or negotiate or whatever the case may be. But it has something to do with these pyramids, these bases, and this apparent above ground, most likely Anunnaki or some type of alien beings. Now they supposedly look like us. They just have bigger heads. These entities, according to Major Ed Dames, and this is why they're going down there. I think they're really going down there to meet with these beings or entities and discuss probably geopolitical or global policies.
Okay. Do you have a question or comment, Sash?
Well, it's a little bit jumping around, but I read an account in I think it was John Leach's book about Roosevelt, after a flyover by alien craft in Washington D.C., decided he needed to inform the public the terms that he had been given, basically, and his general said, "Oh, well, let's test the public will panic," and Roosevelt said, "No, Americans aren't going to do that." And so they got Wells to do this Orson Welles broadcast, and they created this huge panic just to convince the president to make everything a truth embargo on everything. But that has grown so large that if disclosure is to really start to come about the UFOs and the alien presence, what they're also going to disclose is criminal activity of the most heinous kind that have been done by elements of our covert government. And so I guess I'd really like your comment on that too.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest reasons as well is that they don't want to disclose this information. The Brookings report that they came up with told them, look, the people are going to panic, the religious system is going to break down, the economic system is going to break down, so forth and so on. Basically, what it really all boils down to is all the lies are going to break down. That's what it really boils down to.
Right.
You know, that's what I mean. Let's just be honest. They want to keep the lies a secret because they have humans right now as cattle. We literally are batteries to them. You know, we go out, we do all the work and all the labor. They make sure we don't live too long so that we can't catch up to what's going on. They take all of the fruits of our labor and turn it into spacecraft and negotiations with other races and all kind of other things that, you know, we have no say-so in, breakaway civilizations, you know, all these things. And if the truth ever really came out, the barrel of lies is so big. I mean, you know, you'd have to start court-martialing and locking up so many different, you know, main people. I mean, everybody has really been brought in, and people say, well, why? How can they keep this secret so good? How can this possibly be? I'll tell you how it can be. Because if I'm another country, and the United States military contacts me, the military-industrial complex contacts me and says, listen, we know you know about the aliens, we know you know about the UFOs and so forth and so on, but you're not going to disclose anything. And they go, why wouldn't I? Well, you're not going to disclose because if you do, we're going to put sanctions on your trade. We're going to block you from receiving oil. We're going to block you from receiving imported water and fruits or whatever your country needs. We're going to put sanctions on that stuff. And we're not going to.
The other thing is that John Titor says is you won't get the technology.
That's
if you don't cooperate, you don't play ball, you're going to be left behind technologically, and you're just going to be worse than a third world country. So they play game, but we're only getting the old technology. They're giving us all the old models. Roswell wasn't a crashed a crash. They delivered old technology to us to help us, catch up because we were behind the game. Even with the Nazis. Go ahead, Sasha.
Well, Stalin said that Corey Goode was in a meeting with Kissinger and Rothschild and Rockefellers, and they were arguing about if they had to pay reparations for some of the murders and damage and theft that they created, who should pay more and so forth. And Kissinger was saying, "Will you let us off without killing us all?" And they and this was an extraordinary meeting. A fellow named Gonzalez and Corey Goode were both there representing, I guess, the White Hats. Like there's these factions of our government, some of which, like Kramer and those guys, who've been commissioned to try to stop the runaway parts. And it's just, what is this gigantic drama that's going on? That's in space. On Earth, it's Marduk posing as Yahweh, and Nana are posing as Allah, and all over and at every level. And I guess even within our own heads, we have conflicting feelings about everything.
Right.
Interesting situation.
Yeah, really is. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, Marduk, also known as Amun-Ra, this guy is just very, very, I don't say evil person or evil entity or being. I mean, and a lot of the Christian people don't realize every time they say amen is they're actually paying homage to this guy.
Man. Yeah. Amun-Ra.
Right.
Yeah.
They just don't,
So how are we going to do this? I keep, we're going to be coming up on the break at the top of the hour, but, we're getting all this information, which is good. I don't know what percentage of the planet believes it, but there is a faction of us that are wrapping our heads around this and figuring it out. I don't think anything's out there that the powers that be or the Illuminati or the world government wants. If it's out there, then they want it out there. They're not going to let stuff out there. They have the algorithms. They can take back anything they don't want and block it. So we got to realize that we are still being manipulated. We were duped.
Soft disclosure.
Yeah, we get this soft disclosure. We were duped to begin with. We have a whole false matrix about what reality is, and just how are we ever going to get the truth? There's no the truth, but a truth that works for all people, all beings. It's got to be. If you take this from this Earth human 3D game to the higher spiritual level, that as the beings in the continuum, that we created this continuum, this paradox, in order to play out and create the ascension or consciousness or evolution of consciousness. That's, I think, the level we need to go to, because if we're down here in this little human level, we're always, we're not going to have the information. We're not in the loop. We're going to play victim. Except, I'm a contactee. You're a contactee. There's millions of contactees, and yet it's not real open like that movie. What was it called? Arrival, that just came out. It was all kind of hidden. It's still hidden. I would just like for them to say, okay, we're going to have a meeting at the UFO Congress, and everybody comes there. We're just going to walk among you and sit down and talk to whoever wants to talk to us. That would be great.
But you still have to ask if the universe that we're living in is designed by way more than chance, by some kind of program that involves an intelligence far vaster than ours, plus all of our artificial intelligences. What is the purpose? Is it a computer game? This is what some people are suggesting, that this is a great big computer game to decide, see what happens if you escalate this conflict and suffering, lots of suffering to the max. Does that goad you into a technology that allows artificial intelligence to finally bring about find out what it's trying to find out, whatever that is?
Yeah, I really do believe that we're living in a fractal holographic matrix. And the reason why I believe that is because when you study the physics and you study really the ether itself, and you get into the sacred geometry, you find or you discover the Metatron's cube, And Metatron's cube literally is the actual ether or the soup that we're sitting in right now, which is the actual programming code that spits everything out and gives us the illusion of solid matter. Consciousness combined with this soup is able to create what we call reality in the third dimension. And the more I research it, the more I discover that we really are living in a fully immersed hologram. It's a holographic universe where the edges of our universe are two-dimensional planes that form a three-dimensional dodecahedron that projects the actual holographic fractals of which we are actually a part of, and our spirit is currently trapped in. And so we're actually immersed in this thing, and your spirit, your true spirit, is actually outside of space-time, and it's being broadcast in. The human brain has billions of actual magnetite crystals inside of it. And these magnetite crystals actually receive that signal, just like a radio crystal receives a radio signal on radio, and kind of temporarily entraps it into this temporal consciousness prison that we call our avatar or our body. And basically then what happens is our thought materializes reality on this planet as a vibrating light or a hologram. So we're here, but we're not here. This is a sophisticated software program, in my opinion. And everything is an electromagnetic frequency, which is really vibration and sound, and photon, which is light. And everything we think is solid is really created through thought, light, and sound. And everything that in the material world is basically because our higher light frequency self has called it into being. And it's just like a video game. The next frame of graphic appears as the characters on the screen need them to. So it's like we're all a collective consciousness of everything ever created, and all of our particles instantaneously communicate with each other, regardless of distance. Distance doesn't even exist. So whether we're 10 feet or 10 billion miles apart, all the particles know exactly what the other particles are doing, and all information is possessed by the whole. So we're really not separate. We really are all connected as one. And we're kind of consciousness experiencing itself subjectively in the form of trillions and trillions of entities. It's really an amazing concept, but it's been proven that we are living in what they call browser code. And that was discovered by James S. Gates at the University of Maryland. He discovered that the code that runs internet browsers is the same exact code that controls the ether of the universe.
Oh.
Browsing.
Wow. So, yeah, I guess what do we get by having a part of us that's a Trump or an Assad?
We're all of it.
Yeah, we're all. What is that contributing?
It could be. I hate to use this term, but it could be an extremely sick, demented experiment, or it could be one of those. It could be one of those drop a pebble in the lake and watch the ripples go, kind of like I dropped the pebble. Now the ripples are going. Let's just sit back and see where this leads. Let's just see how this develops. Also, what it could mean that there are nested realities. And in other words, we are already experiencing or experimenting with creating AI, artificial intelligence. Once we perfect that, will we create our own artificial universe? And we're already experimenting with a video game called The Sims. Will we give them life? Will we then put them in a universe and drop a pebble and watch them develop and see how they go? And will they then do the same thing? So there could be very many levels of nested realities within realities within realities. And this actually can go on forever.
If you go onto YouTube and you watch the AI videos, and they have two robots arguing, and they're all they're developing. They're connected to the internet, so they have the consciousness of humanity running through them. They're still in there, and they contemplate: Am I alive? Am I a human? Am I a robot? What am I? So that's already happening. We're up at the top of the break. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you very much. You're listening to The Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio. Be back in a few.
freedomslivestage.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
And I see a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to fight as free men, and free men you are. What will you do without freedom? Will you fight? We will run, and we will live. Aye. Fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while.
The future is uncertain. I know this. Death is inevitable. I know this. But one thing is certain. As free men, it is our right to live unencumbered and in peace. And those times are quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion. And as the chains grow tighter, our ability to slip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning and tell the masters no more. And this is Nighthawk, and I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because the freedom is slipping away.
Enjoy your
extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another?
Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please
What?
come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Looking for a nightcap to fill your listening needs? Come join us on Spaced Out Radio with me, Dave Scott, right here on Revolution Radio. Monday through Friday for 3 hours a night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we will take you down the supernatural path. From E.T. contact to the paranormal and all of the spiritual, cryptid, and conspiracy stories in between. You can find us right here on Revolution Radio, at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter at spacedoutradio, and on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. Spaced Out Radio. It's a night of talk and interaction. Are you experienced?
Hello, my name is Mr. Rowe. I am the host of Reality Extraction on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I utilize logic, intellect, and magic to methodically autonomize, vivisect, analyze, examine, study, scrutinize, and extract an essence of reality from a fog of illusion and confusion. You can find me on Studio B every Thursday at 1700 hours Pacific Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. No topic taboo, no subject too strange. I strive to take a neutral standpoint during the dissection of the topic at hand. That's Reality Extraction with Mr. Rowe on Revolution Radio.
I stuck the wrong one in there. That's going to break. So we're back.
Oh, okay. Aloha. Thank
Don't you love
Welcome
Rye?
back. I think it's great. We're having fun. We're on Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com with Dr. Sasha Lessin and Jenna Lessin and Billy-Carson. And before we get back to our show, and we were talking about AI, robots, and the upcoming singularity, be sure to watch for that in your local theater. We want to talk about going to that donation button and making your donation. $1, $5, $15, $20, $100, whatever you can donate is greatly appreciated. We thank you for your donation. And I know there's a couple specials or something. Ahmad, Thomas?
There's no special at the moment.
Oh, isn't there?
No, other than the fact that we're in January, we're upgrading. So anything extra over and above what we get goes to the upgrade fund.
Okay, I can't find those things that came out earlier today. I guess we need money. We need money.
Yeah, it was just saying put your favorite host's name in there, just to see.
Oh, and what do you do when you put the favorite host's name in?
Just to see who's where the donations are coming from, I guess.
Oh, okay. So please donate and do put in the Sacred Matrix and Janet and Dr. Sasha Lessin. We'll appreciate you mentioning us. Okay. Before we parted, we were talking about some incredibly interesting topics. I wanted to say, back up a little bit, there's a book called Alien Interview and also a series of YouTubes by Lawrence R. Spencer. And Errol the Gray is the one that was captured at the Roswell crash, and it lived a number of years or a period of time. But Errol said that she was in an avatar, that wasn't her real form. It's much like the movie Avatar, and I think Avatar is coming out with 2 or 3 sequels sometime in the next year or two. So they didn't actually kill her. At one point, she was cooperating and wanted to talk and give information. When the time was up, she just left. But they pursued that she had been killed. But you can't kill an avatar. They're just projecting their consciousness down into that form for the purpose of that interaction. What did you want to say, Sasha, before we bring back Billy?
I don't know that if people realize how very rotten the system of kidnapping people for slave camps off planet and the trafficking in slaves for all kinds of nefarious murders, terrible satanic practices is going on and supported by elements of our clandestine government, and it's horrible, and it's got to come out in the open and be stopped.
And the other side of that is some people that were led to believe they died in car crashes or they died of cancers and stuff are actually volunteering to go to some of these colonies. And so they, of course, can't tell their family, I'm going to the Mars colony, I'm going to the Moon colony. So they're told that so-and-so died, and they're actually out there colonizing because of the impending global disasters that humanity is bringing upon itself by not getting conscious around this pollution that is killing our world and our oceans, and this whole debate over global warming or not. It's like, hey, just look at it. We have all these species dying and the oceans are dying. Who cares about the terminology? Just do something about it. Back to you, Billy.
Yes, that's a great point. And I think one of the biggest problems that we're facing as a society, as a species, is the fact that we've allowed a handful of people to control 7 billion people. This is the biggest root of the problem. A handful of people control 7 billion. And these 7 billion people are just literally following orders like sheep or cattle. It's really disheartening. Now, not all of them, obviously, but we've got to continue to wake people up, because once people wake up to the point where they realize that the power is in the people, the first thing that they need to do, first of all, I want to say all this marching and crying and picketing and all that stuff doesn't work. What works is everybody goes to their bank and says, I want to withdraw all my funds. That's number one. Number two, I'm not going to work tomorrow. 10 million, 15 million, 20 million people wake up tomorrow and say, I'm not going to work. That's my protest. I'm not going to work and I want all my money out of the bank. First of all, they can only give 15% of the people the money because the rest of the money doesn't even exist. and not going to work will completely freeze the entire economy globally. And that's when they realize that the people have taken back the power. When those two things happen, human beings will take back control of this planet, and this planet will get an economical reboot and most likely move into a cashless society or an anarchistic society where everything is based off of agreements and so forth and bartering. So that's where it needs to go. If not, it's going to continue to progress, and we will destroy this planet, because the cabal that are basically ruling us from a high elite dark level are allowing this to happen, primarily because they really don't care, because they've got their breakaway civilization. They've been stealing people off this planet. They've been tricking people to leave this planet. And developing an entire infrastructure on Mars, and most likely even other planets that they've set agreements with or whatever. And they're prepping themselves for brand new real estate. And unfortunately, the majority of the people are just sitting here going to work and not even realizing what's going on. And this is why I take it so serious.
So, Billy, from your research, who is the cabal? Are they the Anunnaki? Is it Marduk? Is it Enlil? Is it reptilians? Is it Archons?
I believe it's Marduk's bloodline that he left on this planet. That's just my opinion. I could be, some people may have different opinions, but I think that after the last Pyramid War, Marduk left his control and his money to the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. Their names at that time were slightly different. It was the Ra-Com and the Ra-Shields. And over time, it became the Rockefellers, because Com is also an ancient term for the word shield. It became the Rothschilds and the Rockefeller and the Rothschilds. So these are the offspring of the Ra-Com, also means offspring of, and these are who he left his kingdom to, and all the royalty and the money and everything else, and control. And this is why these people, still to this day, they actually said in a couple of interviews that they feel this is what they're supposed to. They're supposed to control humanity. They've been given this right to control and rule over us. So that bloodline, which goes all the way back to Amen-Ra, Marduk, is the bloodline that is the Cabal line. Now, if you even look at the U.S. presidents, all the way up to Obama, and now even to Trump, Donald Trump, and I did an extensive article on this with all the genealogy. It took me a very long time and a lot of research. Donald Trump is related to Obama. They're cousins. Obama and Clinton are cousins. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are cousins. If you go to Dick Cheney and Obama, they're cousins. Bush is cousins with Dick Cheney. When you start really looking at it and you start doing the genealogy, you find that every single president of the United States of America has been related by blood to the King of England named John Lackland, which goes into the Plantagenet bloodline, which then can be traced back to the Arabian kings, which can be traced back to the Egyptian pharaohs, which then can be traced back to the Sumerian kings on the Sumerian kings list. Now, this is incredible. You have to begin to realize that there's a direct bloodline ruling over this planet, and it all has to do with the main leaders of the sort of elite of the elite, which are the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. They're overseeing the whole thing. Most likely they're still in direct contact with Marduk.
Yeah, all roads lead to the Anunnaki.
Yes.
Rome and the Anunnaki.
Correct.
Just wanted to give you a heads up. Billy Hayes, who's a wonderful, the HARP expert, chemtrails expert, is trying to get on to ask a question. So go ahead, Billy, call back. We'll take your call. He's a really sweet guy. I had him on my show before. Okay, so the top of the dung heap, so far, what our theory is and what we've been researching and discovering is it's probably Marduk. Is Marduk still in charge, even though he said he's sorry he's being such a...
Not anymore. He's been, the Galzu have intervened, and Nanar has agreed to stop the war with Marduk, and Marduk says he's going to make amends, and he's what Penray and others who have talked to Marduk say he's somewhat of a confused fellow, because he believes that he can feel the archetypes or the fractals of all the other gods so strongly. He's been confused almost as these different sub-personalities take hold of him, and it's not just that he's put us to conflicting with each other, he's conflicted with himself. That's what Michael Lee Hill and others have told me.
Right, well, that sounds so promising and good and everything, yet we have this society where we have this election, which was horrendous, and we're still reeling from it.
It must be up to show us that how much we could lose the gains of loving connectedness that we fought so hard to think we've achieved here. Maybe we never really have, but it's like you can see that there's a chance that we're going to slide back into snuffing almost everybody's ability to shine their light.
Great. So, all right. Oh, where do we go in our conversation? We have another 45 minutes.
What's uplifting?
Well, let's just do a little bit more commiserating, and then we can end with the last half hour is an uplifting. Okay, so we talked about the space program, and you are an expert on Mars, and Karen's one of my co-hosts, and Brett, and I think you're friends with all of them. So what really is on Mars? What's the secret space program? What do they have out there? There's like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different factions. Tell us more about what's going on out in space beyond the Earth. We already know the Earth has all this crap going on, but has it gone into space? Is there a war that's been going on since the dawn of time? Are there nice, peaceful people out there? Do we have any civilizations that are beyond the level 0 civilization of this Earth, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes, those are very good questions. I'll tell you what, I'll start with the closest planet to the sun. There's a video that I put out with Thomas Scrøder Jensen online. It's on Mars Moon Space TV on YouTube, and I'll send you the link to that as well. I discovered on the planet Mercury, I actually discovered anomalies there, structures, massive, supermassive structures that are intact, not destroyed, not dilapidated. These images come directly from NASA and the European Space Agency, from the Mercury Messenger mission. These are the most amazing images that they've ever taken. The Messenger got so close to Mercury that they actually crashed it into Mercury, because they said, oh, now the mission's over, we need to crash it. So, which I don't understand. That didn't make any sense to me. Maybe somebody came and took that thing away, but anyway, these images were so astounding that we went in and focused on just a couple of them. Now, people say, well, Mercury is supposed to be piping hot and it's boiling iron atmosphere. No, it's all lies. Mercury, admitted by NASA now on an official press release, is that Mercury is like 40% oxygen, organics. It has a weather system. It has billions of tons of liquid and ice water. So now all of a sudden, here's a soft disclosure coming directly from the horse's mouth again, that Mercury isn't this hot, volatile, iron melted, rain place. It's actually a place where any one of us can literally land on, get out of a spaceship and take a deep breath. There's actually more oxygen on Mercury than there is on Earth.
Are there people there now?
There's people there right now. And how we come to this conclusion is some of the cities that we've discovered in these NASA images are completely intact, completely pristine, and very extremely advanced. This one structure that we focused on was approximately a mile wide. One structure, one solid structure about a mile wide, and there was a tower there coming off the surface of the planet, connected to the structure, which was backed up to this reservoir. The tower had to be at least maybe a mile and a half, maybe even up to 3 miles up, which technology we can't reproduce right now on this planet. We can't build that high. Wow. So this is amazing technology, and in our opinion, there's people living there right now. Then you move over to Venus. Venus, again, not this smoldering hot place with this dense atmosphere that nothing can live. If you go to the usgs.gov and download all the Venus radar images, open them up in any photo editing program, and then start zooming in. No editing required. Just start zooming in to the actual data. You'll begin to see fully in place, intact structures, buildings, cities, freeways, the whole works. I have one of the most amazing two Venus city anomalies that I discovered, which I'll send you those as well, with the links to usgs.gov. And I have a comparison image of something on Earth so similar. You can clearly see that these are actual structures and cities on Venus, completely intact. And as you know from Stranger at the Pentagon, Valiant Thor claimed to have come, or the guy who wrote the book claimed that he came from Venus. Valiant Thor came from Venus and stayed at the Pentagon for 3 years, trying to convince us, obviously, to go in a different way and give us technology that will help better, green technology to help better this planet and help and extend human life. We refused him. He hopped in his ship and he went back to Venus. I found ships on Venus, I found structures on Venus, and I found cities on Venus. So every time NASA tells you we found another M-class planet 20 light years away, they're just trying to distract you from looking straight up, because there's people living right above our heads in peaceful, happy, harmonic societies, and we haven't been privy to that information. We're not invited at this time. Then you move back out to Mars. Mars had two major catastrophes. The first one was when Tiamat exploded, and one side of Mars is completely charged. So you can see that one side is completely like torn up and exploded, and the other side is more smooth. That's because when Tiamat exploded, a lot of that land mass that exploded from Tiamat actually hit Mars on that side that was facing at that time. Mars was a moon of Tiamat, and actually not only give it a pole shift because of the weight, but charred and destroyed that side. The Mars healed and it became better again, but then wars destroyed it again, and even some other geological disasters. Now, what's happened here is Earthlings, us, we've discovered that there's a small remnant that did survive and remain on that planet in a weakened state. And it's like, oh, wow, free real estate. It's Christopher Columbus all over again. So they've gone there. They've started a small base back in the 40s and built it up now to there's over almost 1 million people there. Infrastructure has been developed and built. 3D printed houses have been used, and also some of the existing structures that were intact and usable are going to be used. And there's evidence of recent battles and explosions on Mars with most likely the remnants that remain there. I found an amazing, intact, functioning military base on Mars, which that image was posted on I think it was episode 11 of Deep Space on Gaia TV, where you can see tanks, cannons, and even two craft in the air with shadows on the ground. One looked like a helicopter type body, and the other one looked like a swept wing airplane. It was banking and making a cut. So that was an amazing image that I discovered in McMurdo Valley on Mars. So there's evidence that there's military presence. It's the MDF, the Mars Defense Force, in full tact. So when these guys like Randy Kramer and these other guys come out and say they served on Mars, I believe them because of the images that I've seen and discovered. I cannot say these guys are making this stuff up. I've seen military equipment on Mars, and I've seen guns and dead bodies next to guns in some of these NASA images. And why NASA will allow us to see this stuff, it's still scratching my head about it, but it's there. It's definitely there. So then you move out further into the solar system. Let's go out to the planets orbiting Saturn. Saturn has moons. I call them planets because they're habitable, but they're really moons. Yeah. But these moons have life on them. You go to Titan. Titan is an exact copy of Earth, and Huygens landed and splashed down in water. They're claiming that it's liquid nitrogen, but it's not. It's actually water. On the descent video, we found amazing anomalies. I'm talking about supermassive structures on the moon Titan. And then as it got closer, we found like what appeared to be satellite dishes, and even this gigantic facility or house, or I don't know what you want to call it, but a structure, artificial structure on the top of a hill, on top of one of the mountains as it passed by. It was making its descent phase. And then you get to see, when you go back and look at the video and start editing it and looking at it real deep, you start to find that there's anomalies all over the place. There's actually people living on Titan. There's people living on also another moon named Triton. There's people living on Ganymede. I mean, I can just keep going on and on and on. Enceladus, there's an entire city on Enceladus. When we did the flyby of Pluto last year, and they came back with these high-quality HD images, myself and a lot of researchers were so amazed to discover that it wasn't just a ball of ice, that there's actually structures and pyramids on Pluto. So we have all this documented on our website, UFAH.space. So this is amazing.
Billy,
so our entire solar system is inhabited.
Can we just go back to Luna and the hypothesis that it's really a spaceship and that it's deliberately was placed there? And what do you know about what's going on inside?
Okay, well, the moon itself, our moon, is used to orbit as an artificial satellite of Tiamat before it exploded. Now Tiamat is actually the asteroid belt. Part of Tiamat became the Earth. They say that it took, as it gravitationally took the moon with it, but the moon was actually placed there by what beings? I'm not really sure. It's supposedly the progenitors, and it's hollowed out, and there's actually cities inside of the moon, and it was put into this artificial orbit where some of the exterior or the outside above ground bases, which are on the dark side, which are actually dark, doesn't really exist, just means the side that we can't see. Obviously, it does get light and day just like we do. But it was put into this special orbit in order to protect or hide the Anunnaki bases, or the most likely Anunnaki bases, because based on the ancient tablets, they actually went there and stayed there for an extremely long time before they came back, and they must have built a whole society up there as well. But they built massive structures on that side, and the Clementine mission discovered them. We've discovered massive images, massive anomalies on the dark side of the moon from the Clementine images that we were able to get from NASA. So the theory is correct. Now, if you go to I think it's page 19 on the black box, on the Apollo 11 black box, you can hear the astronauts talking. And you can actually hear it because you can download the sound file, which I can send you, and you can also read the black box data in black and white directly downloaded from NASA. And it says, one of the astronauts says clearly, look at that amazing conical dome, or that conical crater. Now, there's no such thing as a conical crater. He's trying to use cover word. And then the other guy goes, I bet the people down there, look at them, I bet they never get out. So there's obviously people living, yes, and that's recorded black and white and verbally by Apollo 11 crew. And NASA has made this available for down. I mean, it's amazing that you can just down, but nobody knows. The average person wouldn't know where to look, but we found it. We know where to go. It's like they love hiding the truth in plain sight. So this is amazing stuff. So it proves that it's a hollowed out moon. There's people living underneath these craters and these domes. And I found one of the most amazing ones, which is featured on one of a video on MarsMoonSpace.com. And I'll send you a link to all this stuff so you can show it to your viewers, but listeners. But this is amazing stuff, and it's all real. And the moon definitely is an artificial entity or object placed there in that special orbit in order for balancing of the Earth's weather, as well as some type of a way station and also a civilization now that's living there.
Wow.
Wow, you are an encyclopedia. Thank you so much.
So I was talking to John Titor, and he said that there's two bases outside the solar system. He used the Tellus, SR7 or something like that. It's the one that the Phoenix Light craft, and he took an expedition of two craft, and they selected two planets, and they've been colonizing them for a number of years now. And that's in case one of the timelines he went down, we are dead everything's dead by 2100. So part of it is we're on a course of destruction here, and the other part is the power elite, they're going to get off planet, and they don't give a shit about this place anymore. So what do you know about the colonies outside and our ability to travel through time and space, and the different craft and everything? Yeah. Any awareness on that level?
Yes, a little bit. I know about there's a dark fleet that does exist, and this dark fleet, they operate outside of the solar system. The big mission has been accomplished is to use warp field technology to travel to Alpha Centauri. And this has already been done. It's not thought about, they keep coming on TV, this is what our goal is. No, they've already done this using a warp field. And what they've done is they've discovered a way to bend space in front of the ship and expand it out of the back. So what they do, they're not traveling at the speed of light by using rocket propellant and things like this. They're traveling actually at a percentage of, they're not even reaching the speed of light, but they're traveling at a percentage of the speed of light. I think it's 10 C is what they're traveling. And they're using this warp field technology. And it really is true that what they've done is, if you put a tablecloth on a table and you put a glass on top of the tablecloth and you pull the tablecloth on one end, the glass is going to move along with the tablecloth. So what they've done is they figured that by using this type of method with space, you can travel a percentage of the speed of light, or even the speed of light and beyond, without breaking Einstein's theory of relativity. Because what's happening is the craft is not moving, space is is moving, not the craft. So it's a shortcut. So this technology has already been developed and actually works. And NASA has been fronting that they've been working on this ISX since 2010, and that they were testing in 2015. Well, they've already tested it, and it works as well for them. And that it's going to be a future, NASA Enterprise ship. This thing already exists and has already been used to travel outside of our solar system and head to Alpha Centauri. Now, what planet, or name of planets that they've been to or potentially set up breakaway civilizations on out there, I really don't have that information, but I do know that they have used this warp field technology to leave the solar system already.
Sasha, question, comment?
I'm really interested in the medical technology and the life restoration and the use of time travel to heal.
What about the 20 and back program?
The 20 and back program is really interesting. I've met and interviewed a couple of super soldiers and people that said they've been involved in a 20 and back program and using some of these crystal technologies and some of these time technologies. The people that are telling me this information and also talking about it as well in other interviews are really, I get the sense they really believe that they've been involved in this program. I'm not psychic, but I'm a pretty good reader of people and mannerisms and quirks and sincerity, and I really get the feeling that these people there's been 3 or 4 people that I've talked to independently that have the same exact story in terms of a lot of things match up. And it's almost like, alien abductions. Too many people have the same exact story. So something's got to be there. It's got to be some solidity to this somewhere that this actually is happening. Now, I recently did the Mars conference. I spoke briefly at the Mars conference in Alabama last month, I think it was, or the month before last. And Andrew Bizzago was actually the one who hosted the event or set up the event. He had to remote in because unfortunately he had an injury that he was dealing with and couldn't actually physically be there. But we had him on a live Skype during the conference, and he talked again about his jumping from the Sepulveda, California jump room to Mars and the time and how they take time away and you time travel and everything else. And I really believe it's true. I don't have a lot of detailed information as to how they have achieved this or how they're doing it. But I really do believe these people are now, in terms of what's going to happen with humanity and being able to, health-wise, being able to extend life. Scientists have recently discovered 2 major things that are going to help us gain the lifespans potentially close to what the Anunnakis can live. And this is something else that the elites are keeping secret. They discovered, first of all, that there is a cap has been put on to our DNA, an actual cap. They actually discovered it. Now, if you go back to the Bible, at the Tower of Babel, when they came back, the Anunnaki came back and discovered that humans had already started building the spaceport and realized that eventually the humans can be on the same level they are, and they were living very long at the time. The Anunnaki God said, we're going to not give them more than 120 years. The Bible says, no, they shall not, carry more than 120 years. So they actually genetically modified us back then and capped us, and they put a cap on our DNA. Now, what's happened is they found this cap, and they found out that they can actually remove this cap, and that cap allows the human body to continue to live a lot longer. The second thing that they discovered was inside the human DNA, it actually runs on computer code. Here we go back to computers again. Two scientists, I think they're Harvard scientists, took DNA, 1 gram, which is a tiny drop on the tip of your finger, and put 700 terabytes of data into it, and then downloaded that data to a computer. They put their books in the Library of Congress on it and all this other stuff, and then took the information back off the DNA. So now that they've discovered this, they realize that a human body can store almost an unlimited amount of data, and that inside of our DNA already contains almost all the history of the universe itself in our DNA.
We are the Akashic records. The Akashic records.
Correct.
That's incredible.
Correct. And this is why the Greys come here to abduct us. They have no soul or spirit or whatever, and they're somehow trying to combine the amazing biology that we contain within us with their genetics or with their body, so they can obtain some higher level of consciousness or maybe or eternal life or whatever. That's just a theory of mine. But they're all coming to get our biological material because it's so special.
That's right on. So, and then Dr. Aubrey de Grey says that right now we have the technology that we can live to be 1,000 years old, and he believes that in 1,000 years, of course, we reach that escape velocity. Mm-hmm. So we are the Anunnaki. We have their capability, and Eki came here 450,000 years ago. We're not even sure how old he was when he came here.
Right,
Could have been
exactly.
a million. Right. So,
where is the cap located? Could you say some more about the cap?
The cap is on the DNA. Now, so when you look at the DNA strand, now I'm not a biologist by any means, so I'm assuming that what they're saying is when they take a strand of DNA and look at it under the electron microscope, they can see where there's been some type of artificial cap put on the DNA. Now, what that exactly specifically means, I'm not sure scientifically, but what it means from what I understood from reading the articles on physics.org and stuff was that this cap basically times out. In other words, it tells the human body you can't live longer than this time. When this cap is reached, that's the end of this body. This avatar is going to pass. So no matter how good you take care of yourself.
What Lloyd Pye told me is that there was some specific gene sequences that were turned around. And what we know now from crypto technology is that we can do that too. We can open and close anything specific, which is not only in the individual, but can actually change his germ cells and what he passes on to his progeny.
Right. Yes, that's very true.
So that's fascinating.
Yeah, and also scientists discovered that the memory, all of our memories, is also contained in our DNA. This is amazing. This is an amazing revelation, because when I started researching that, I realized that the ancient Egyptians and all these other ancient races around the planet, in Bolivia, in India, in China, all these mummies that you've seen all over the world, these people have been mummifying their dead because they were told to mummify them not so that they could travel into the afterlife, even though their heart and their brains have been removed. It was for preservation of their DNA, because they were told that in a future time, their gods or their rulers would come back and they would actually take their DNA and they would bring them back to life in a new body. And so basically, this is what the whole mummification thing is all about. It's all about preservation of DNA, not about going into the afterlife and on the solar boat and all this. It's really about cloning yourself is what it's really about. So, the DNA, once you take it and you can clone it, and if you have the right technology, you can bring back all the information and memories of a person back into a brand new avatar. This is one of the things that Thoth, the Atlantean priest king, kind of talks about in the Emerald Tablets, when he transfers his ego or consciousness into other men. And he also has gone down into this regeneration chamber. He went down 100 times for 100 years each time. Now, those 100 years, I don't know if those are Anunnaki 100 years or Earth time 100 years, but just by Earth time 100 years, that means he's been in this regeneration chamber for 100,000 years over the course of many eons, of course. If it's Anunnaki years, it's even more than that. It's even unconceivable. But he also has the ability to transfer his consciousness into other avatars and things like this. And so this is all, it sounds like magic, but magic doesn't exist in my book. It's all technology.
Yeah.
We were talking to Neil Freer before he passed, and he had congenital heart failure, and he was trying so hard to stay alive. And he said, well, I'm not real worried about it. I've got my head freezing my head. He already had contracted to do the cryogenics. So with this information, he was spot on. So he could probably, be revived and brought back to full, life again. And at some point, it could be now if the information is released. But we know that's part of what the powers that be do, is they repress all these technologies, and that's what really pisses me off. We have cures for these diseases. Yeah. Over 100,000 people die a day that could be saved from these diseases, including the disease of aging. We're flying around and driving around and traveling in antiquated technology, which is dangerous. Mm-hmm. All these things, planes, trains, boats, they crash, burn, destroy the environment. And this is all being repressed and hidden from us. And if you're listening out there, whoever you are, knock it off.
So what Billy is saying, the basic sanction that we have is nullity. Stop participating in the economic institutions. Lay down your arms and return to your bases. Stop. Withdraw your money from the banks that support the pipelines. Stop participating. The boycott. It's way more effective than picking on the policemen who are hired to hit you.
Mm-hmm. Correct. You're right.
Well, there's a lovely movie called The Arrival, and it's about 12 giant ships that park themselves strategically around the planet, and that's disclosure. And then of course they don't know what to do, and
each area has 1/12 of the information they need to solve the global problem.
Right.
Yep.
So it'd be great, but we can do our own disclosure, and part of what we're doing is talking about all this information that's out there, it seems like, the genie's out of the bottle. The information's coming out. Whistleblowers are coming forth. I know, a lot of whistleblowers, and they're still afraid to tell their tale. And some of them are coming out this year. They're writing their books. And if they want to get in touch with us, write to us at aquarianradio@gmail. Write to Billy. Share your anomalies. Sasha wants to say something.
Well, just as pluralistic ignorance. If when I do a depossession, I ask the entity that's attached to a person to look inside and see that they too are of the light. And so that's the way it is with each individual person. And anybody is capable of looking within. And if you really look within, you feel the fractals. You empathize again with other people and know that it's a spurious, false dichotomy between you and other people, and that you really are one. And so that's just like we tell an entity, look inside. I tell that to every person, look inside. And then you really get that you are more than just this particular meat package that you're wearing.
Correct. Absolutely. You hit it right on the head. Yeah, that's important. I think people need to realize that we're all still connected. We're all still one. Even interspecies, interplanetary species, we're all still a reflection of each other. And we just have to just try to get people to realize empathy and love is the only thing that's going to bring this universe back together as one and bring us back to our source. And without that, we're headed for destruction.
Great. So what do you imagine is the best way or the most effective way? How are we going to get this disclosure, this information out there to the point where we have critical mass and the Grand Awakening?
Well, that's one of the things that my crew has been working on. A lot of us, like you and your husband, have been working on it. It's just a unfortunately, very slow process of gaining people, gaining followers. Even I don't like to call them followers; I call them leaders on all my social media. I call them all leaders, and getting them to again spread the word. It's almost like a domino effect. And unfortunately, it just takes time. It's a very tedious process of continuously putting out content and information to wake people up and bring people along and get them to then duplicate you, which is the real key, is to get them to duplicate you by sharing information, becoming a researcher themselves, which is why I started a record label and started doing conscious music so that I can create music that people would like to listen to in terms of the beat and sound and put my programming in there, which is the disclosure, and get them to eventually go, what do these words mean? And they start researching it. Now I've created a researcher. So I'm looking for all different types of ways to grow this thing exponentially to where we can reach critical mass. But it's going to take an amazing, massive effort by all of the people on the front lines, like myself, you, Sasha. I mean, it's a hard job and a battle. But, we may not even see it in our generation. Hopefully we do, but it's something that we've got to light up under our children and their children's children. We've got to keep it going because critical mass will be reached, and there will be a point, I've already seen it in my mind's eye, where everybody says, okay, this is it. We're done. Central bank off. Work off. We're not doing anything. We're not moving. We're not even going to buy a gallon of gas until our demands are met. The show is over. You're going to now take our commands instead of us taking your commands. And we're gonna do a reboot. We're turning this whole thing off and turning it back on again. It's gonna be totally different when we flip it. They're gonna go running for the hills, running to their other planets and everything else. They're gonna get the heck out of here because, by then it'll be 8, 9, 10 billion people, and you can't overpower that many people. You can't kill them all. You can't lock all of them up. It's impossible.
Right.
I think of the movie Amazing Grace with the basketball star Johnson, where basically all the professional athletes said, we're not going to play until you disarm those missiles.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Imagine that. I mean, can you imagine, even if I'm glad you brought that up, even if just the professional athletes, imagine the entire NFL just says, you know what, all the games, none of us are going to play until we pull out of Afghanistan. We pull out of Afghanistan, we'll play again. It's $100 billion a year business. Somebody's going to make a phone call. say, hey guys, listen, you guys got to come home because the economy is taking a tank just because of the NFL alone. So there's a lot of power we have. We just have to unify. The unification is the key. Everybody's got to stop thinking of their self, and we've got to become one again. And when we do that, we can accomplish amazing things as a species, as a race, and we can overthrow this cabal, and we can actually be welcomed into the galactic community as fully grown fledgling adults and ready to receive and talk to our star brothers and sisters.
Oh,
yeah.
And I think that it's really important not to take vengeance. If Gandhi said an eye for an eye and the whole world is blind, then we need to, if people will just own up to what happened and just tell the truth. There won't be any. They'll never get authority over others again, but at least we don't have to become savages just because we've been savaged.
Well, I think on some level we intentionally created this whole virtual reality game that we're participating in. So, if you ever go watch a play and they come out and bow, and who gets the loudest applause? The villains. So in some way, these villains say they deserve the recognition and thank you very much. You played your role, but the game is over. It's time to ascend and move into this higher level of consciousness where everybody on this planet and all the other planets get their basic minimum needs met as a given. Like Alex Collier said, how is it that, to the Andromedans, how is it that, they said to him, how is it that you have a planet where people are born into it, they didn't ask to be born here, and you don't even meet their basic needs of food, water, shelter, education, and, right now we need communication and transportation. There are some basic human needs so that everybody who is alive, who's in an avatar, who's on this body, this planet, need in order to exist. And it's an atrocity. It's a level 0 civilization that does not meet the basic needs of its global citizens. And we are all citizens of planet Earth. And it is one big giant ecosystem. It's one big economy system. And it's one big political system. And if we see ourselves in that level unified, and we need to go past our skin encapsulated self sense and our identification of self. When you start, like when people get it when they finally have a relationship or they have a family, I think most often they get it when they have a child that they're raising. Their sense of self is now themselves, perhaps their partner, and their child. And then they have that other person, their consideration for everything they do. I wouldn't do that because that would hurt my child. And if we could think on that level, like I wouldn't do that because that would hurt my neighbor. I wouldn't do that because that would hurt the water. Or that would hurt the animal. Then we move into at least a level 1 civilization. But I heard a story recently that there's 2 Anunnaki planets now, and I think this is probably Enki. He is a separate planet from the Bureau, and they are a level 5 civilization. They are so advanced. There's no war, no poverty, and all these different things are given for their society. Sasha, you wanted to say something? Okay, he had his little finger up. We're almost out of time. We have, I don't know how much, a few more minutes. What's our final little thing of discussion here? Billy, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I'd just like to say that, I want to go back to the fact of the nature of the universe. If you really understand that we are part of a whole unit that was connected all at one time, and that separation really is only truly an illusion. The fact of me being here and you being there wherever you are, sitting wherever you are in that room, the fact that truly we still are energetically, on an energetic level, we are still connected right now at this moment. And when you begin to really understand that we're all really the same entity or a piece of the same entity that has kind of given itself the illusion of separation for self-experience or whatever it may be, you can see and think about people in a totally different light. Yes, people will still get you frustrated. People will still get you angry at certain things or whatever. But it's a lot easier for you to overcome it. And now nobody really can let me down. If somebody lets me down, I look at myself. I don't say that person let me down. I say I let myself down because I put too much thought or faith in this person for whatever thing they were supposed to accomplish, instead of looking at myself saying, I'm the one who made the wrong decision by entrusting this person with this information. This person wasn't capable, and I, in my mind, made a poor judgment. So when this happens, then you start to begin to be empathetic to others, and you can really sense and feel what it's like to truly have unconditional love for other people. You don't need religion. You don't need to go to bow 10,000 times and all this other kind of stuff. All you need is empathy and love. Those two things are the key to unlocking the mysteries of the entire universe and our species, and taking us home where we belong, which is back to the stars.
Oh, now you also have on your bio that you have you're the space agency. Your first class space agency is doing research and development of alternative propulsion systems and zero-point energy devices. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, the alternative propulsion systems are basically, obviously, different ways other than using rocket propellant. We're looking right now at a ferrofluid vortex engine, and that's our main goal right now is to really develop a schematic for that can be put into a CAD design and then run through a very sophisticated computer program to see if it actually could function. And basically what that is we're looking right now at different liquid metals, liquid mercury being one, the top one, and putting it into a vortex at 50,000 RPM and putting it under 250,000 pressures and then electrifying it. Now, the containment unit for the mercury is actually a torus shaped steel donut. And this torus is basically got a reverse magnetic pole to prevent the mercury from ever touching the inside. And then we use a positive pole on the outside of this torus to actually create the rotation, to create the actual rotations of the mercury around this torus donut. So basically, once we get the RPMs up to 50,000 and electrify it with the right pressure, you'll get anti-gravity properties, you'll get lifting properties. And you create an anti-gravity bubble. So anything that's within a specific range, depending on the side of your torus donut, you will get a specific amount of weight reduction. You won't get 100%, but you'll get a significant amount. But you can get anywhere up to 30%, sometimes even as much as 70%, depending on the type of object, weight reduction. So that's one thing that we're looking into. And then the second thing is zero-point energy devices. One of them I put together myself, which works off of magnets. It's basically a magnetic generator, two magnets facing opposite poles, and using repulsion technology to basically crank a shaft, which then sends that energy into a generator. And then we step that up and we can power small things like batteries and lights and charge a phone or a laptop and things like that. But now we want to do it to where we can actually get this to a much larger size. It's going to take another grant because the magnets that we actually need are very expensive. They're probably going to cost about $50,000 a piece. But once we get this thing up to a full scale, we'd be able to power a house indefinitely without the house ever needing to go on the grid, completely off grid. Wow. So those are a couple of things we're working on. Now that technology can be used and that's one of them. We're working on another one that uses actually electromagnetic waves in the air and then combine it with a simple fuel source, even just like silicates or sand, which can be put into these small plates, and then that can actually be turned into electricity through a specific process that we can't really discuss right now. So these two things are really mainstay. And the reason why they're involved in space travel is because if you travel to another planet or even into space, you need a way to completely, continuously make power besides using nuclear. Because nuclear is obviously plutonium, and that can be dangerous, it can be hazardous, it can explode. These objects can't even explode, which is the most important thing, and they can't catch on fire. So we're looking at those two things for that. And also, if you do land on another planet, you need to have a way to power any structures or habitats that you create. So that's why now the benefit of it on Earth is it can go to third world countries and give those people electricity where none existed in the first place. And that's the real main focus of it, to be honest with you.
Wonderful. Have you received information on how these secret spacecraft are powered?
Well, there's one, which is the TR-3B. And TR-3B, there's actually quite a few of them out there moving around. And a lot of people have seen these TR-3Bs. They're triangular-shaped craft, and they think that they're looking at a UFO.
And we're out of time. Well, thank you so much, Billy. Thank you, listeners. Great show. We'll have another conversation with you on Tuesday on KCLR. Much love and blessings.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, "You can't handle the truth." Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com. Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Halakas MD, Melanie Vrichton, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan,